My name is Sheila Waldron, and I am a script supervisor. I grew up in New Jersey. I was one of 5 kids. From a very early age, fell in love with the movies. So I knew I wanted to do that in some way, but I didn't really understand that there were jobs attached to what I loved until I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I wanted to be the person who made a movie like Raiders of the Lost Ark. When I went to college, I wanted to be a film major, and my parents said no, because it was a hobby and not a career. And so I became an English major, which I think helped me in the long run with my film career. But what changed it was my sister had a friend who was a producer, and I cornered her at my sister's baby shower and said, this is what I want to do. And she helped me get my first job. The first movie was for PBS. It was an American experience about the assassination of President Garfield. I did craft service. I was the key PA. I acted in it. I did video playback for a little bit. So it was a well-rounded first job, but I loved it. I knew where I was where I was supposed to be. I was a production assistant and then an assistant director for a few years and realized it wasn't a good fit for me. And I saw the script supervisor, and she sat near the director, and she came in at a call and pretty much left at wrap and did no heavy lifting. And I thought, this is the job for me. So I went up to the script supervisor, Karen Kelsel, and I said, you have to take me and train me on your next movie. And she came in the next day and said, I'm doing a movie in LA. You can be my intern and follow me and learn from me. And I said yes immediately. And that was the beginning. The role as a script supervisor is the person who keeps track of dialogue, continuity of props, wardrobe, hair, makeup. A script supervisor makes sure that the shots cut together and that tone is maintained. Because you shoot out of order, oftentimes the script supervisor helps remind people what happened before and what's happening after. So in this moment, they should be ABC. You're the safety catch. You're the last ditch effort before it all goes south. So it's a little bit pressure. But it's a lot of fun as well. When I'm script supervising, I like to carry an entire script with me. Now with technology, a lot of script supervisors just use an iPad. But I still like the visceral feel of a script. And there is something really great about just being able to have something physical for someone to look at and hold. So I write down just notes that I have. It's a little bit of a mess. But this is just for me to keep on set. And I keep a separate set of notes for the editor that will reflect the director's likes, dislikes, when it's really good, a few exclamation points, and what not to use, and sometimes why not to use them. So for directors, sometimes it's good to see exactly in the moment what they were thinking. Like they like it for the first beginning of the dialogue, but not for the end. Little things that they want to remember later about why they like something or didn't like something. I keep camera rolls, sound rolls, lenses, filters, distance to subject, and then all the prints as well. The script supervisor is a filmmaker's helper. Like, you have to think like a filmmaker. You have to take on all those roles to make sure the director is getting exactly what he needs or she needs. My best moments live in those conversations I will have with a director where they say, what do you think? That's the most thrilling thing in the world for me, is to have a director feel like they can rely on me to help them get through a shoot day. I lived in New York at the time, and Wes Craven was making a movie, Music of the Heart. And he had interviewed a lot of script supervisors and couldn't find anybody. And I was not at that level yet to be one of the calls that were made, but a production person said, I may have someone you should talk to. And I came in and interviewed with him and his two producers who did all the talking. Wes didn't say a word the whole time. And at the end, the producer, Mary and Madalena, said, Wes, is there anything you want to ask Sheila? And he said, yeah, I have two questions. Do you smoke? And do you like crossword puzzles? And I said, well, I don't smoke. And I like crossword puzzles Monday through Thursday, but I don't like them Friday through Sunday. And he laughed. And I said goodbye, and I went home. And by the time I got home, there was a message on my machine saying, the job is yours if you want it. And he changed my life. Wes Craven made my career, basically. And I continued to work with him for years. He brought me out to LA. He got me into the LA Union. And I worked with him up until he passed away. My first movie with Ben Affleck was Gone Baby Gone. He was so young, but so determined and so passionate and such a natural director. I've never seen anyone take to a job like he did, with such love and creativity. Oftentimes when I would get frustrated with how something was going, he would take me inside and say, we just need this, and then we're good. Whatever happens after that doesn't matter. We just have to get this. It just was the most incredible thing to get to watch him just fall in love with this process. I mean, it's crazy that that was the first thing, because I feel like he's been a director his whole life. I mean, there are so many stories with Ben. But I remember the one that I always tell people is when we were on the town and we were due to shoot at the bus station. The president was in town and all the streets were shut off and we couldn't drive anywhere. So we made the move to get on the subway with Ben in his bus driver's uniform, and we were petrified that Ben would be swarmed because it was Boston and he is the king of Boston, and not one person noticed him. When we shot the scene in the town with Ben walking through streets with the cops looking for that person, the crew was like, everybody's looking for this guy. They'd make him right away. And I was like, let me tell you a little story about Ben Affleck walking through the subway. Not one person noticed him because they looked at the uniform. And that was such a great little, like, life imitating art, art imitating life, whatever it was. And we were all so surprised that no one recognized him. But that's how it was in the movie, and it was perfect. And on Gone Baby Gone was another story that I think about when I think about how much I love filmmaking. It was one of the ending shots. The little girl and Casey Affleck were on the couch together, and we did a small dolly behind the television. And in the script, it said that she just sat there, had no emotions whatsoever. And we had a little girl who was fidgety. And so we did it many, many times. And finally, we did a take where she sat very still while we did the dolly. And when the dolly stopped, she put her little hands behind her head. And we both looked at each other like, did we get that? Because that's better than what was on the page. She created a whole different future in that shot by being that person that she was, that maybe she was going to be all right. It was magic. And There have been many times where I've had magical moments like that that remind me that film is a living creation of so many people's efforts. And sometimes when you roll the film, you get something out of this world. Something that makes your heart beat faster, something that makes you cry, something that makes you remember what it was like to be a kid, like all those things. When it's really something filmmaking is, there's nothing else. The good, challenging part of my job is that nothing's ever the same. Every single day is a new challenge. Every single day is a new experience. What makes it great is when the director really knows what they want. If you have a director with vision, it makes everything else sort of fall into place. On the flip side, when they don't know, makes it incredibly hard on everyone. The beach is definitely the hardest place. Sand, water, all that stuff is terrible. It may look like a lovely sunset on a oceanside beach, but behind the scenes there are a lot of people humping equipment, and it's not good.
Night shoots, love them or hate them?
Hate them. There's not one good thing about a night shoot. I get cranky between 11 and 2. It's a big swath of time to be cranky. And then I can't sleep. But the lovely thing is, as I've gotten older, so have my directors, and they hate them too. The advice I would give a new script supervisor is don't get lured into the technology. A small percentage of the job is inputting facts, inputting information. And it's easy to get lured into just writing things down as they happen instead of influencing what could make them better. You have to be aware of everything that goes on a set. And if you have your head down the whole time, you're going to miss a lot. You're going to make mistakes, but don't let it stop you. Just learn from it. Just be involved. You're a department head. Be a department head. You're a creative force of help for your director. Be that. Don't shy away. I often say to every department, even if we're in total agreement, let's talk about it. Because all these people are there to help you. And you're there to help them. There are so many things that have almost been a disaster. And that is how we live our lives. It's almost a disaster. It could have been a disaster, but you remembered to take that can out of the shop. Like, all those little things, you just need to work together. That's what I love about working on a crew. It like has the best and worst of being with a family. Working for Artist Equity was very different in the fact that they value the talent behind the camera as well as the talent in front of the camera. Ben is always very aware of who does what and when and how, and appreciates the effort and the experience that people bring to his projects. So to have a production company that actually is able to bring that to reality is such a bizarre concept. It's not something that we're valued for most of the time. But he doesn't treat us like we're interchangeable cogs in a wheel. And that's so special. Transitioning to being a director was easier than I thought it was going to be. I still was, of course, very nervous to go to set every day. Panicked. But being on set is where I thrive. I was able to use my script supervisor skills in ways like setting up camera and going through dialogue and going through action. It really helped center me, because as a script supervisor, I'm in charge of all that stuff. So as a director, it was nice to be able to rely on my vast experience as a script supervisor. You know, I've been through almost every single experience you could have on a set. The one thing I did not expect was how easily I gave up the role of script supervisor to my script supervisor, who thankfully was amazing. But I was able to focus solely on the performances and where the narrative was and tone and everything else strictly, and found myself saying, what hand did she pick that up with? So I was very happy that I was able to let that part of my brain go and concentrate on being a director. But without my experience as a script supervisor, I think it would have been more difficult. You know, I used to have producers ask about whether or not I did television or just did films. And for me, it's all work. But people like to put you into categories and pigeonhole you on certain things. I'm just going to push forward and continue to work towards my directing role and screw everybody else. Whatever you need to do to follow your dream, just keep talking to people about it. Just keep sharing your passions. Keep sharing your creativity. Make your own movies. There's nothing that will stop you if this is what you truly want. And I grew up as a very shy child. But once I found the movies, there was nothing that was going to stop me. So don't let it stop you.